We are very fortunate to be part of this tradition of the Bhagavad Gita lineage in order to help purify our senses. We are striving in this material world for so many things, and the Bhagavad Gita is like the medicine we need in order to purify our consciousness and make us really see. We're going here and there, everywhere, without any care, trying to find that happiness, and we're getting frustrated. We have a book called Hiding in Unnatural Happiness, and that's what's happening these days. People are hiding in happiness that's very temporary and very flickering. It's like the deer. I don't know if you guys know about the musk deer, but the musk deer creates this incredible fragrance called musk. It's actually worth more than gold. And it's so potent, just by smelling it, you're intoxicated. Your nose is intoxicated. And you just become so enlivened. And people are chasing after this musk scent. They're looking everywhere to find it. And so is the deer. He's looking everywhere to find this musk scent. Where is that musk scent? But the musk deer is the one producing the musk. So in the same way, we are wandering here and there in this material world, but we don't realize that that happiness that we are seeking lies first in trying to understand what is my heart? What does it mean to have a heart? What does it mean to understand the aspects of soul and super soul and really question internally? So this is something that's very important. And we are very fortunate that we have someone like Srila Prabhupada, who is part of the lineage and who is such an amazing person. He's a hero. He's a hero in a lot of our eyes because he has risked his life, sacrifice for us. So in that way we can sacrifice for him. He had to tolerate so much when he came. One time there was a Indian ambassador visiting in San Francisco, and Srila Prabhupada really wanted to see this Indian ambassador, so he had one of his disciples, Michael, who later became Mukunda, to arrange this event. Now Srila Prabhupada was dealing with like a lot of hippies, and this ambassador was living in the St. Francis Hotel, very nice and polished. There was Mercedes and Rolls Royces everywhere. And Srila Prabhupada pulled up with Mukunda in a beat up Hare Krishna van with gas fumes coming out of the trunk. And they went to the valet, and the valet looked at the car and started scratching his head a little bit. It was kind of an odd scene, seeing someone so regal like Srila Prabhupada sitting in the back of this car. Srila Prabhupada got out of the car. The valet reluctantly parked it. And Mukunda himself, he was wearing this very shabby suit. It was green with stripes. You can imagine the scenario. And they went to meet the Indian ambassador. His name was B.K. Nehru. He was at the top floor of the penthouse. And when Srila Prabhupada met B.K. Nehru, they spoke in Hindi, and Mukunda was just listening. He, of course, didn't understand what they were saying, but he found the words very soothing. And he was just there for an hour or 2 hours. And finally, B.K. Nehru's wife came out, and she was from a Farsi descent, and she gave a gift to Srila Prabhupada. It was wrapped in aluminum foil, and it looked kind of like a coconut, so they didn't really know too much what it was because it was soft. So when they opened up the package, it was actually a really giant date. I really like this story because I like to eat dates. I eat them a lot, and I just really connect with dates. But anyways, going back to the story, So Srila Prabhupada took this giant date and he took a big bite out of it, like a real juicy bite out of this date. And then he gave the rest of the date to Mukunda. And then he told Srila Prabhupada, now you eat the date. And actually Mukunda was horrified. He saw like all this, he just didn't like sharing food at that time. And he was like, oh man, I don't know if I can eat this. I don't like sharing food. But reluctantly, he ate a piece of the date. And he was like, wow, this is really good. And then he thought, maybe I should give the rest to Srila Prabhupada. So he stuck it back at Srila Prabhupada. He's like, here, Srila Prabhupada, now you can finish it. Later on, Mukunda learned that by getting the Guru's remnants, it's a very advanced stage of spiritual finding. It's like a treasure. But at that time, Mukunda felt disgusted getting the Guru's remnants. He was thinking, oh, this has like a lot of like slobber on it. I don't know if I want to eat this. This was like in the early days. So I was just speaking about how much Srila Prabhupada had to deal with his young disciples and how much he had to tolerate. There's so much toleration that goes on in this world. I had an amazing encounter about a year ago, which I think I'll remember for the rest of my life as one of the most pinnacle stories I've ever been faced with. I was at a school distributing books, and you can imagine the school scenario. I mean, it was chaotic. It was midterms, finals. Kids were running everywhere. It was really hard to stop people. At this time, I wasn't doing the book tables yet. I was stopping people. And I saw somebody walking kind of slowly. So I usually can tell who's going to take the book based on the way they walk. If they're walking slowly, you kind of know that this is someone who's more patient, relaxed. Let me speak to him. So I approached this man and I gave him the Bhagavad Gita. And I said, hey, this is real cool spiritual knowledge on meditation and inner yoga. Check it out. And I gave him the Bhagavad Gita, and he looked at the cover, and he examined the cover, and he threw it back at me with great force, at my face. And usually, at this time, especially even now, I would like flare up. I would get kind of angry. But through Krishna's mercy, that whole week, I was meditating on kindness. And it's all I wanted. It was the only desire I had, because I had some other encounters and I was thinking, Krishna, I just want to be kind. I don't want to be like this. I'm not representing these teachings properly. Please let me be kind. But when this person threw the Bhagavad Gita at me, it was really difficult. But somehow I was able to, through Krishna's mercy. And then this student, probably like 20, 21, he said, this book is all bogus. This is full of lies. This is false. This is fake. Allah is the only God. Islam is the only religion. This should be condemned. And I realized I was dealing with an extremist. So I was in this situation. And by praying to Krishna, I got some more intelligence. Instead of flaring up, I said, oh, you're from the Islam culture? I love your culture. I actually have a nasheed on my phone. For those of you who don't know what a nasheed is, it's like an Islamic prayer. It's like a kirtan. It's all a cappella, beautiful harmonies. And before joining Krishna consciousness, I used to be a music producer. So I used to look for all these exotic sounds and make remixes. So I just happened to have this nasheed on my phone. And the man was shocked. He was like, you have a nasheed on your phone? I'm like, yeah, I got a nasheed on my phone. And I started playing it. And it was just the most beautiful scene ever, because you have all these kids racing, and here we are in the middle, and this beautiful harmonious nasheed is playing. And he's just looking at me as this nasheed is playing. And the lyrics literally are being translated to please my Lord, engage me in your devotional service. And he looks at me, I can see his eyes start to moisten a little. And he says, you know, you are making such an attempt to learn about my culture. Let me make an attempt to learn about yours. And he took the Bhagavad Gita. So these types of moments that we're faced with are really great times for prayer. They say there's really no stumbling blocks in life. You got to turn your stumbling blocks into stepping stones. You need these moments to purify yourself from animal propensities. I would have flared up, but because of this incident, you become more humble. The word humble actually comes from the Latin word humus, and humus means low or earth. That's what it kind of like translates to. So if we want to create a spiritual foundation, a spiritual empire, we have to first be humble. We have to be like earth, and then you can create that spiritual foundation. So tolerance is such a big thing. Whenever I think of tolerance, I think of this book that I read called Salted Bread, which is giving the highest forms of tolerance. It's such an amazing book. It deals with the Russian persecution back in the 80s, particularly Armenia, Soviet Union. And the devotees were so tolerant. They used to get beat up and tortured for no reason. They would turn blue and purple. One time, the main character of the book, Sarvabhauma, his name was Gakko at the time, this guard, he just didn't like Hare Krishnas. He practically broke his spine, dislocated his upper body with his lower body, and gave him permanent eye damage. And there was so much torture going on, but Gakko, at all this time, he was still forgiving. He was still forgiving. He would recite to the other inmates about the stories of Haridas Thakur. And actually, Haridas Thakur, he got beaten up in 22 marketplaces. Gakko, he heard this story very briefly because he was only a devotee for a few months before joining the prison. And he would relate the story in such great detail that he couldn't understand, how is it that I'm knowing this story so well? It was only years later, after he got out of prison and read the stories again, that everything that he was saying was lining up with the actual story. So Krishna was speaking through him, and it just flared his faith up so much, ignited his faith, because this is what happens. And in this particular incident, when this prison guard beat up Gakko so bad, it was the only time he cursed a prison guard, because he was just in so much pain. And then what happened was, this prison guard, who actually used to be a boxer, a fighter, so he was huge, he was like 6'5", from what I remember. He wasn't to be seen after a long time. And then people were wondering, where is this prison guard? And then one time another prison guard came, and he was kind of shaking, and he approached Gakko, and he said, "Is it true that you cursed one of our prison guards?" And Gakko said, "Yes, I just couldn't help it. I was just in so much pain." "Where is this prison guard? I haven't seen him." And this prison guard the other one was still shaking so much. He said, "Actually, this prison guard and his entire family were in a horrible car crash, and they left their bodies." And that prison guard was saying, "Now please forgive me if I did anything to you." And all the prison guards now were treating Gakko much more nicely after this incident. So we are put through trials and tribulations, but they're all stumbling blocks that you can turn into stepping stones. Even Srila Prabhupada, he was going through so much problems, even as the head of the ISKCON society. He was saying one time that so many people are writing me letters full of their problems. Garga Muni is sending me letters full of problems. Rama Raya is sending me letters full of problems. If everyone is sending me letters full of problems, who's going to solve my problems? You know, it's just such a task to take on as a spiritual master. So we have to be very thankful for what Srila Prabhupada has done. And a true hero is not somebody who builds empires in this world. A true hero is someone who can take you out of this world. And Srila Prabhupada has given us this opportunity if we just follow sincerely. They say the most important word in the English language is cooperation. Whether you're a family man, whether you're a leader, whether you're an entrepreneur, you cannot succeed without cooperation. So Srila Prabhupada, towards the end of his life, he also instructed us that just please try to cooperate. And that's all he really wanted. He just wanted us to get along. So it's amazing to have this festival these next 3 days. We're going to have so many wonderful seminars, so many wonderful speakers, so many wonderful devotees, all for Srila Prabhupada and the Ratha Yatra. Actually, I was talking about this, the Soviet Union and these Russian devotees. When they finally got out in 1988, 1989, they were all awarded a trip to India, to Mayapur. And it was a big celebration. And as soon as they landed in Mayapur, they saw Lord Jagannath, the deities, for the first time in their lives. And Lord Jagannath was actually crying. He had tears in his eyes. We heard a wonderful seminar yesterday about Lord Jagannath, how the whole process exists of Ratha Yatra. How do they actually find the wood for Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra? It's an incredible process. Every 12 years, they have to find new wood for Lord Jagannath. So what they do is they take all the senior pujaris and they send them to this deserted cabin area in the woods and make them sleep there for 2 days. And within those 2 days, all the pujaris have the same exact dream of where the next wood is located. This is how they find the next wood for Lord Jagannath. And not only that, but as soon as they find the wood, it's marked with the symbols of Sudarshan, Chakra, club, this, lotus, it's all there. So it's just so amazing. I sometimes get into science preaching, and this is actually one of our biggest battles, because the scientists are telling us that everything is created through matter, but at the same time we have all these wonderful instances and experiences. Experiences could be subjective, but then there are evidences such as reincarnation cases where little children are remembering their past lives, and it's well documented by Dr. Ian Stevenson and Dr. Jim Tucker, over 3,000, 4,000 well-documented cases. But scientists don't want to touch that subject matter, because if it was true, then their entire foundation would be destroyed. So they just put it on the back burner. Same thing with Judah Karma Prabhu. Michael Cremo has done so much work on forbidden archaeology, how scientists are saying that humans came into existence 200,000 years ago, something like that. But Judah Karma is finding archaeological evidence that there was humans on these planets millions and millions of years ago. And it totally shatters their worldview. And all we're asking is simply for the school systems to give this alternative knowledge in their textbooks. Because right now, they don't want to be secular, they don't want to be secular, so they just include evolution. But that's actually secular, because that's a type of religion, that's a type of thinking. And they don't include other type of theories of knowledge. And it all starts with the school system, because these kids from age 5, age 6, they're being forced this knowledge. They're being told it's okay to eat animals. There's no problem. Look at the school menus. Everyone's doing it, just do it. But just imagine if they actually saw the cow being slaughtered, if they saw the chicken being slaughtered in front of them, would they still eat it? They wouldn't. This is all big propaganda going on. And we have to really influence these school systems. And so that's why our mission is to give out this knowledge. We're not meant to just keep it for ourselves. We're meant to give it out to others. They say the way this nature operates is that when you use something, it becomes strong. And if it remains idle, then it becomes weak. Just like if you want to build muscles. If you're pumping your muscles, they're going to get strong. And if you don't use your muscles, they're going to get weak. That's actually everything in this world. So if we are not using ourselves as instruments of compassion and hope and love and mercy, then we are actually becoming weak for Srila Prabhupada. We have to become strong. This is the Sankirtan army. And everybody needs guidance. Even the other day I was walking up this hill that I walk every morning, and I saw this lady doing jumping jacks and crunches and sit-ups, and she was listening to this audio that said, don't eat the chocolate. You don't want to eat the chocolate. If you eat the chocolate, it's a big mistake. Temporary pleasure is not worth it for the long-term pleasure. So I was just thinking, even for material aspects like this, we need guidance. So what to speak about spiritual culture? We have to seek that higher guidance. And we just have to understand that this world is full of miseries. We just can't help it. Even my family, they live in a very pristine place called Anaheim Hills. Such a beautiful area. Every time I go visit, it's like wonderful. The trees are so green, the grass is so fresh, it's always nice weather. I really feel like I'm driving back to like the heavenly planets every time I go visit. But it also has its downs, because Anaheim Hills, Anaheim, the word Anaheim came from Anna, which came from ant, which means that Anaheim was built on an ant farm. So every time I go there in the summer, the whole house is like covered with ants. There's ants in the cupboards, the ceilings, the floors, and we're meant to not kill, so it's so difficult. I mean, wow, I'd rather be like somewhere else than there. So you get the goods, you get the bads with everything. But we should continue pushing on. And when we become servants for Srila Prabhupada, miracles happen, magic happens. This morning during Srimad Bhagavatam class, Brigupati Prabhu raised his hand and he related a story that happened to us yesterday. We were at 7th and Fig, which is a really nice downtown area to distribute books. And we were there on the corner, and all of a sudden we see this kid crossing the street. And he stops halfway when he sees us. And he's like shaking. And he's like about to get hit by a car. And we're like, come on, come on. And he's like, oh my God. He's like jumping up and down. He's like, this is it. And we're like, what happened? And he relates the story to us. 2 days ago, this is like a young kid, 18 years old. He was meditating. And during his meditation, he went into a trance. In that trance, he heard the words Bhagavad Gita. He has never even heard these words ever in his life. And he couldn't even pronounce it. And it's just like, what, Bhagavad Gita? He went on Google and searched it, and he saw that it was a spiritual book. So he was thinking, okay, I have to get this Bhagavad Gita. And so when he sees us and we hand him the Bhagavad Gita, he was just amazed. And we were amazed. I actually have this on video, and I'm going to post it on YouTube pretty soon. I got a YouTube channel called West Coast Monk, all one word. That's just a little advertisement commercial I'm doing right now. A little plug. We also have a Ventura chapter, MGTOW. It's another YouTube plug. Yeah. So Krishna performs a lot of miracles. And if we get more and more connected into this Krishna conscious fire, we start to light up this world. We start to see the magic of this world. So it's very wonderful. It's like, yeah, it's common knowledge not to waste Krishna's money. You know, money is Krishna's energy, so we should save every single dollar. But time is also Krishna's energy. So we shouldn't even waste Krishna's time. He's given us this time, and we should be very determined and focused. We should take pieces of paper in front of us that are blank and write down our plans, write down our thoughts, write down our goals. Try to figure our life out. Give 5-year plans, 10-year plans. It's very important to do this because then you see your mental on the paper. And Srila Prabhupada, he wanted us to write. He wanted us to make a contribution, share our realizations as much as possible. It's actually therapeutic. When you write, it's very therapeutic. So these are all practical tips we can do. And I'm starting to lose my voice, so I think it's an indication to stop. So I think I'll stop here. If there's any questions, I can take them. And if there's no questions, maybe I can just ask, like, what's one thing you remembered that stuck out? Maybe you can say something, Prabhu, if there's something you remember.
It might not really give us what we're looking for in terms of becoming more self-realized.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So there's material plans, and then there's spiritual plans. And so when it comes to spiritual plans, they should be in line with what the Guru says. Just like if I want to distribute books, I'm going to write a plan out of how I'm going to distribute the most books. I'm going to think of strategies and ways. I'm going to reveal my thoughts on paper. They're all in line with the Guru's teachings. But what happens when you write is that it helps you understand yourself more and you become more personal. That's the whole goal of Bhakti Yoga, is to become personal. Just even whether we're preaching, whether we're out on the streets distributing books, those who are successful are the ones who are the most personal with the people. So when you write things down, you become personal with yourself. And when you start with yourself, then you can really help others. So that's the contribution you can give when you make these spiritual plans. Yeah, really good. This is Bhakti Original. We met him a few months ago at a college campus, and we gave him the book Science of Self-Realization. The next day I saw him again, and he told me he was on page 36 already, and he said he became vegetarian overnight. And he was even helping us at that time when we were packing up our boxes. He was there loading the car for us. So we saw that it's a very special soul. And now he's here, and he's like Ratna Part 2, and really helping with the Ratha Yatra. So it's amazing how things work out. Yeah. Yes? Yeah. One time I was in Mayapur. It was like one of my first times there, And I sat down in the brahmachari prasadam hall, like kitchen where all the brahmacharis are, and I just started taking prasadam, and I was trying to make friendship with the person next to me. He comes from another temple from India, and I was asking him a lot of questions like, so what's your name, who are you, who's your spiritual master, what do you like to do, what's your service, this and that. And then he asked me, so what's your name? I told him my name, and he's like, who's your Guru Maharaj? And I said, His Holiness Radhanath Swami. And he said, stop right there. You don't have to tell me anything more, because the mind of the Guru is the mind of the disciple. So I'm just trying to follow in his footsteps. I feel like he's very amazing when it comes to preaching. And he's following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, and we just have an amazing lineage, so we just got to do what we can to make them proud. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.